Nearly a year ago, at the start of season 9, I made 3 distinct predictions for Apex Legends. Number 1 is that we'd eventually start to see NPCs guarding points of interest around the map.
Hey yo, let me see that box prowler real quick. Hey yo, prowler in a box? Box prowler.
Number 2 is that we'd receive either an advanced movement or temporary deathmatch style mode as an entirely new way to enjoy the Apex games.
Welcome to Control, an entirely new way to enjoy the Apex games.
Finally, number 3 was they'd make a survival mode a few years into the future. My point being is that we are 100% getting a survival mode eventually, and you can congratulate me in the comments when it happens. Truth be told, I was somewhat worried about how this season might pan out, as I was under the impression that Mad Maggie would absolutely destroy Olympus and ruin its gorgeous utopia aesthetic. After all, this was the person who blew up a sizable portion of Kings Canyon for a laugh, but I'm happy to report that property values in Olympus remain mostly unchanged. Mad Maggie herself might just be one of the best legends released to date, as she really tends to personify a jack of all trades and master of none skill set. By looking at her tactical, you'd think she was an assault character, as her iron drill can flush out anyone trying to use the tried and true hide like a bitch move. This shit is pretty much just a thermite on a cooldown, but you can be a lot more creative with how you can use it. Admittedly, it might only be useful in certain situations, but when it works, this shit slaps harder than my ex-wife after a box of wine. When looking at her passive however, you'd think Maggie was a recon character, as by simply doing any damage to an enemy, they'll be highlighted through any surface for around a second. This seems to be very much in line with Respawn's design philosophy of turning every character into a recon legend, but in this instance, it's not too bad. The whole point seems to make it easier to aim her drill, and when you compare it to Octane literally never needing to use meds, Lifeline reviving for free, and Pathfinder not having a passive since season 6, it's not that bad. Maggie can also pick up shotguns with her feet and doesn't suffer any slowdown from carrying them, which personally seems just fine for her jack of all trades niche. We now come to her ultimate, which might trick you into thinking she's a movement character, as by throwing her illegal Beyblade, she can knock enemies out of position while creating speed pads to help your team close the distance quicker. Unfortunately for Octane players, the boost doesn't stack with a stim, meaning you won't be able to just chase down a trident on foot anytime soon. In all honesty, this might be for the best, as having stim pilots getting their hands on this shit would be an absolute clusterfuck. Maggie as a legend proves to be extremely fun to play, as she seems to be exceptionally useful in throwing unexpected threats into a fight, which tends to knock other squads off their momentum. What this usually means is that fights with Maggie can often be quick and decisive, as you can just use every piece of your kit so quickly and intuitively, which is often so disruptive to another team. Maggie comes under the category of a fun legend with an insufferable personality, and as someone who likes flexibility, I'm glad Maggie can thrive in her role. It's been 7 seasons, but maybe we can get another support next time. Another interesting change is that the devs have decided that there are too many weapons in the game and have placed both the flatline and longbow in the crafting station. As much as I understand this decision, it does however make me wonder why they wouldn't just rotate craftable weapons in and out on a weekly basis. Not only this, but make them upgradable just like armor, because the way I see it, they basically do that with attachments anyway. While we are on the subject, why even stop at regular weapons? If some poor motherfucker is able to gather 500 crafting materials in a single game, they fucking deserve to hold a Kraber in their hands, and no one is going to convince me otherwise. Another opinion which might however be more unified is the addition of a prestige skin, which is very similar to an heirloom, or mythics, as they are now called. The prestige skin is only available after finishing the collection event, which as you might imagine, tends to be pretty fucking expensive, clocking in at around 16,800 Apex coins, which is over 150 freedom bucks. In fact, even if you're a cheeky motherfucker who never spends crafting metals, changes their location to Belgium for the guaranteed currency, and optimizes purchasing on the event, you're still looking to pay over $100, unless you've been saving for several years. It's a shame that it even needs to be this expensive in the first place, because the skin itself is such a fun idea. Players are able to essentially level up the skin over time by racking up damage with Bloodhound, and after reaching tier 3, which takes a whole 100,000 damage, the player is rewarded with a unique finisher while wearing the skin. In the opinion of this humble Apex player, the idea itself is fucking incredible, and being able to work towards a long-term goal and be rewarded for the effort is a super cool concept, but the pricing leaves a lot to be desired. Apex already has Champion Edition skins which need to be bought separately, and I think this price point would have been perfect for such a skin. I've mentioned this before, but when players feel as if they get to rip off a company, they tend to spend a lot of money, but for $150, I'd imagine even the most dedicated Bloodhound players would still find this a hard price to swallow. We still have the best part of the updates to break down, but that will have to wait until after today's sponsor. If you're like myself, who has a basic ass desk mat, falling apart at the seams, and are thinking of treating yourself to something genuinely nice, then boy, have you stumbled across the right video. Apex Desk is a mousepad brand that's all about quality, and it aims to perfect their desk mats with optimal glide, stitching, thickness, print quality, and artwork to suit whatever kind of setup you're trying to foster. I'd be lying if I said Apex Desk is a big company, because as far as I can tell, it's mostly run by a guy called Trey, but in my opinion, that's its greatest strength. This absolute mad lad wanted to disrupt the desk mat industry on his own, and he's so proud of his work that he'll even inspect, sign, and number each one individually. If that's not enough, you'll even get a certificate of authenticity for every product you purchase, because our boy Trey just can't help himself. This is because every design is extremely limited, with some having as few as 100 units being produced, meaning you're going to be unique, whether you like it or not. What makes Apex Desk even better is that if your mousepad somehow got past quality assurance, you can just message Trey on Discord directly, because a true Sigma male never quits the grind. Viewers who want a high quality mousepad or a full desk mat can check out the link in the description and use the code on screen for an easy 15% discount. Apex Desk, Trey's gift to the world. What might be surprising is that this season has had the highest number of concurrent players since launch, with over 400,000 people playing at the same time, and as you might imagine, crashing the servers yet again. I desperately wanted to know why exactly so many players had jumped back in for season 12, but after making a poll, the answer wasn't what I had expected. I usually consider New Legends to be the biggest draw for each season, but that was nearly beaten by the handful of balance changes, which was quite the unexpected outcome. By far the biggest draw was the new game mode, and after playing it for myself, I'm not exactly surprised. The new control mode is a 9v9 format, which sees teams have to capture and control points to slowly increase their score. Battlefield players should feel right at home, as it's more or less just conquest on a smaller scale, and even includes some cherished features from Battlefield 2042, like not showing the scoreboard at the end of the game. The game mode itself is fucking fantastic, and owing to constant respawns, there's a lot more of an incentive to go for those high risk plays, and discounting a handful of people camping at the back with charge rifles, there's very little ratting to be had. This isn't to say the game mode is perfect, and as controversial as this might sound, I think it could learn a lot of things from the Battlefield franchise in particular. The first problem is the loadout system, which forces players to select a number of preset options for every respawn. This was presumably done to stop a particular meta taking over, but with some of these loadout choices, there's almost always an objectively best pick, every match anyway. The next point of discussion is the respawns. Perhaps another hot take incoming, but to encourage team play, you should be able to spawn directly on top of squad mates. Trying to get to other people to coordinate in a regular game, even if you've known them for years and are actively talking to them over voice chat, can already feel like you're running a fucking daycare center. Having the ability to spawn on a teammate who has placed themselves in an opportune position, could really make playing the objective and winning team fights a much larger focus. And even if one of the conditions for spawning in is that your squad mate needed to be at full health, it would still be a welcome improvement. Lastly, I think they should just pull out the stops and crank those player numbers as high as they can go, with 30 players both sides and more capture points to accommodate the enormous team sizes. Battlefield player numbers are down to less than 5% of what they were at launch, meaning there's no reason Respawn shouldn't double down and end up doing Battlefield better than Battlefield, just like they outdid Call of Duty with their Titanfall games. We now come to my personal favorite part about Season 12, a motherfucking crypto update. It's about fucking time. Crypto's scan radius has now been greatly increased, but more importantly, he can now throw his drone out on the fly and keep himself in the fight. In all honesty, this very much seems like the bare minimum they could have done to make my boy Crypto a decent pick. And although I was hoping for things like Respawn and survey beacon automation, I'm not about to let good be the enemy of perfect. Just being able to use this like a bloodhound scan and contribute to a fight is such a huge bonus for the legend, and having more of a presence on the battlefield means that your drone is less likely to be taken out as a result. Crypto before this update was by far my highest win rate legend, as being able to start a fight with your enemy already down 2 bars of shield and highlighted behind cover is such a huge advantage if you have good squad mates to mop them up, but being a third gun right from the start is going to make him significantly stronger. Maybe for the first time ever, he'll finally have a pick rate higher than 2%. On top of this, Mad Maggie's drill is able to be attached to the drone, and although you have Stevie Wonder levels of vision, it's still possible to get in some damage with absolutely no risk on your end. The coordination it takes to even get a slither of damage is likely higher than most squads will ever be able to muster, but for the meme potential, this might just be my favorite part of the update. This does make me wonder why the drone couldn't be used for other things, like being able to deliver a caustic trap, or for Mirage to be able to deploy a decoy on its head. When it comes to hero shooters, the very best moments usually come from two abilities being able to interact with each other, and I'd love to see more synergy when it comes to teams creatively combining their strengths. This does however highlight the trend for giving legends recon mechanics, because as it stands, the last 5 fucking characters added to the game have been equipped with some form of highlight ability. This is where I think Crypto comes in, because as we know, his backstory is being able to hide himself, which is why I think he should have a new passive called Off the Grid, which would be this cool new